navy blue of Victoria.
Uses his feet and goes again through mid-wicket. That's an even better shot from the Victorian captain.
Swept away very nicely by Nicole Bolton for four.
Oh, he's been given! That is 50. The man from Northcote.
Well, Bill, welcome to the Vic State Cricket Podcast. It's absolutely brilliant that you have, that you're a part of it today.
Great to be here. You left it a bit late, but I'm still here. So
That's right, exactly. I want to start by asking you, who introduced you to cricket?
Well, actually, my father. My father was 48 when I was born, but he played junior cricket for the Monopoles, which he worked for the State Tobacco Company, and they used to have this league for Saturday. But my brother, who was 16 years when I was born, he played for the Thornbury Presbyterians on the mat, and I went to the Church of England in Shaftesbury Parade, just up the street when I was about 9 or 10, but they didn't have a cricket side, so I went to Thornbury Presbyterians when my brother played when I was 9 or 10, and I played in that was the under-16 comp on the mat. And when I was 12, I was at Pender's Grove in Year 6 primary school, and the schoolmaster sent me down to Northcote. He said, I want you to ride down to the Northcote Cricket Club on Tuesday night. The coach is Mr. Jack Baggett, who played football for Richmond Premiership sides in the 40s. Ride down, so I rode down, left school at 3:30, rode down Victoria Road into Westgar Street, walked into the Northcote Oval, and there's this big oval, and I walked into the dressing room, which was open, and there was nothing. So I walked out again, and there was this guy working a horse pulling concrete. And I walked out there, and strangely, I met the first black man I was ever going to meet. It was with Doug Nichols, later Sir Douglas Nichols, who was curator of Northcote Ground. He said, what are you doing here, son? He said, I've come down to see Mr. Baggett. He said, Mr. Baggett doesn't get here to 5. I said, oh, well, what do I do? He said, well, I'm making this wicket. Would you like to work the horse up and down this big draft horse with that big leather boots on? It was about 8 foot tall and this big, massive brick roller. And he said, yes, I can do it. I said, I went up once and I'd come back the second time and it didn't want to move again. I said, doesn't want to move. I didn't know what his name was, Sir, I think I called him. He said, oh, that's enough now. He knows when it's made. So then I walked into the dressing room and waited till 5 o'clock till somebody turned up.
Amazing. So before we get to the Northcote experience, although you've already shared some of it with us, growing up was it in the backyard, in the street? Were you playing with your neighbours, with your brother? What got you interested in the sport?
Well, like back then we were a poor family in a poor working class street, basically. Nobody had a car. It was between High Street and the railway, and there's only the odd car come through as getting through to High Street, and we used to play in front of the lamppost, all the kids in the street. And when I was 9, I went to Thornbury Presbyterians, and that's where I finished up playing cricket.
So when you're making runs in the street, who are you trying to be? Who are your heroes?
I was more hero as probably a red checker pigeon in the pigeon loft.
Right.
I won a race from my brother, probably. I think, we're pigeon fanatics. My father raced pigeons, my brother raced pigeons all his life. And my passion, basically, away from sport, was racing pigeons.
So from a cricket point of view, was that just something else you did, or is it something you always wanted to?
I think if I had an ambition, which I don't think I ever thought about ambition when I was that age, but I think I wanted to play in Thornbury Presbyterian's A-grade side with my brother.
Fantastic.
Basically what my goal probably would have been if I had a goal at that age.
So then you go down to Northcote,
Yeah.
as you said, you had that first experience, and here you are as a 12-year-old playing with and against men in the 4th 11 at Northcote. What sort of experience was that like for you?
Well, I think my first experience came when Mr. Baggett come along, and I was fairly tall and skinny, and they had a spare net. He used to just throw balls to me and throw balls for me, and I sort of gained a bit of confidence. But the big thrill for me going to Northcote, and I probably shouldn't say this in front of my daughter, was the fact that they had a shower. And I walked into this dressing room. They said, you have to bring a towel down. So I took a towel down, first training night. And after practice, I rushed under the shower and had a big rose. It was a sporting shower, and I poured out this water. And I stood under for about half an hour. Because back home, we never had a shower. We had a copper and a tin bath. We used to light the copper, put the water in, have a bath about 4 inches deep and hop out again. So Tuesdays and Thursdays was the hottest, cleanest I've ever been in my life. No doubt.
Fantastic, fantastic. So those early days at Northcote from the fourths at the start, and I think it only took you, 4 years? You're 16, you were playing in the first 11. Can you remember many experiences playing for Northcote?
Well, probably the big experience playing in Northcote Force was, most of them were adults. I think our captain was about 38 years of age or something, and most of them were frustrating cricketers that weren't good enough to play higher level. And there was a couple of younger ones, and we're playing next to the Fitzroy's team. They had their own pavilion and their own curator, and we were playing on a council pitch. So we were bowled out and they were none out of tea compared with the two games. But I just think I just love the going down to practice initially. I think you practice and there's Fothergill, batting in 2 nets from your Brownlow medalist and a tremendous cricketer as well. And Wally Dudley, who bowled out Bradman for a duck in 1948 state game. And I'm watching them practice. It was just fantastic.
Were you brave enough to ask questions and to improve, or did you improve just by watching them and absorbing it all?
I've never had a coach really. Mr. Baggett used to throw balls. He wasn't a cricket coach like. The only guy I've ever asked questions to was Colin McDonald when he walked out of the nets once after a tour of England. I saw him bat. I've never seen anything like it. And I said to me, Mr. McDonald, which we used to talk to in those days, Mr. McDonald, how do you bat like that? And he said, son, I don't think he knew my name at the time probably. He said, I used to get in front of a mirror and practice. I think cricket is a side-on game. It must be side-on. I said, what do you mean by that? I didn't know. Side-on. So you get side-on. And luckily I was side-on naturally anyway. And he said, get side-on and play down the line, play down the line. And he said, go home and put a stocking on the clothesline, put a ball and hit it. Just hit the ball, hit the ball. And that's the only coaching I ever had. But it was the best advice I ever had in my life.
Fantastic.
And it was very interesting when Mark Taylor was in the commentary box. He said, the coach was telling me the other day I'm a bit too straight on. He said, I've opened myself up. I'm hitting the ball beautifully now through the onside. I didn't say anything because, if it worked for him, it wouldn't have worked for me. And I was very strong picking up the length of the ball because I was side on all the time. I was looking with 2 eyes at the ball.
When did you realise that you might have been good at cricket? Because you're playing district cricket at 16 and you're sort of on the radar from a Victorian point of view at 17. Did you know pretty early that, I might be pretty good at this?
Well, it's funny. This sounds a bit corny, really, but my ambition was to be as good a pigeon flyer as my brother. That was my goal in life, really. If I had a goal, I don't think I had goals then, really. But now, when I made 100 against Bill Johnson and Doug Ring, my first 100 at 16, 117 was my first 100. That's when people started to take notice of me, basically, I think. And then I got picked in, I can't remember, second 11s or something like that. That was probably the turning point when I realised everybody was saying he's made 100 against Doug Ring and Bill Johnson. I was still playing.
Yeah.
It probably gave me the back of my mind that I was better than I thought I was.
Do you how much or do you remember your first ever 100?
I can, yeah.
What do you remember of it?
Well, I jumped down the wicket when Doug Ring was bowling his leg spinners and I was 98 and I missed it, and so did Ray Jordan. Missed the stumping. Ray is no longer with us, unfortunately. I went on and made the 117.
And that feeling because you ended up making 50 first-class 100, so you knew how to do it, but just that feeling that first time was it achievement, accomplishment? What was the excitement?
I must have been very excited because when I got home, I ran down the passage at home. I said to Mum, I made 100. And Mum said, you better get down the backyard quick. I said, why? She said, honey, half your pigeons are home from the pigeon race.
Right.
And 100 was, that was the end of 100. So, different world.
Very much so. So from Northcote to Victoria, you had a little run in the second 11 before you got the opportunity to make your debut for Victoria. Now, this will test your memory. Can you remember whether it be a phone call, a conversation when you were told that you're going to play for Victoria for the first time? How did that all unfold?
Can I reverse that and go back to my second 11?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was picked at 16 to go to Adelaide by train to Adelaide to play in Adelaide. And Dick Maddox, brother of Len Maddox, was the captain of the side, and when I say we, Mum and Dad, and my sister and I arrived down at Spencer Street by tram or train or whatever, and I had this big suitcase and overcoats and everything on, and they looked at me a bit silly, the players, and Dick Maddox came up to me he said to me, do us a favour, Bill, would you go over and buy some lollies and stuff or cake or something from the store over there? So I said, yeah, sure, you gave me some money. As I went over, the train just started to move out a bit. And I was only 16, I wasn't all that smart. So I ran over to the desk, and so I grabbed some newspapers, and I ran back in, and I also grabbed the Phantom comic, because I used to read the Phantom comics. So I got on the train, and because I bought no food or drinks back, they made me take all my clothes off a puff of my underpants and stand out in the passage. So I started to get tears in my eyes, so they must have felt sorry for me, so they put me back into the cabin with them. And anyway, somebody saw the Phantom comic, and that's where my nickname, the Phantom, come from.
From that moment,
that was the moment. That was the whole of the tour for me, because I got to Adelaide and I opened with somebody, I can't remember who. I was out second ball, giving out LBW for a duck, and so I was a bit disappointed, but I wasn't. When after the game, Barry Jarman come in. He was his first game as keeper for the seconds. He said, "Son, I don't know your name or anything." He said, "But you're a bit unlucky today." He said, which didn't mean a lot to me at the time. I had had a duck. Anyway, we come back to Melbourne and we played them in a reverse game, and I made 180, and that was my stepping stone to playing for Victoria.
So making 180 so early in your Victorian career, albeit in a second 11, how quickly did you get the respect from people in Victorian cricket that this guy might be all right?
Oh, I don't really know. That's a hard question to answer. I think that because I was making a fair amount of runs for Northcote, I sort of consult. Once I got into the side, I didn't feel uncomfortable. But batting with Colin McDonald or something like that, and you got Harvey coming. Harvey was captain when I first come in. He was batting at 3, and it was. I never felt I was going to be permanent. I didn't feel uncomfortable either.
So after that 180, and you got picked to play for Victoria against Western Australia.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you now, can you remember that moment where you got the tap on the shoulder to say you're going to wear the navy blue and white of Victoria?
I can, because the national service down south doing my training, national service for 6 months in the AIF, whatever it's called. And I used to have to hitchhike from Laverton up to the Junction Oval State practice twice a week. And I went into the Shield match with no form whatsoever, basically. It was at Junction Oval. Ian Johnson's last game for Victoria as captain. Neil Harvey was in the side, and Colin McDonald, they were successful players. So we go out to bat, and I face Ron Gaunt. Ron Gaunt was opening for Western Australia, and I took a strike, and I got 3 off the second ball, and I got down the other end, and at the end of the over, we were none for 3 or something. And the second ball next over, I got caught a slip off Harry, what's his name? Doesn't know his name. Caught a second slip for duck. And I sat there it was the new age scoreboard at the Junction Oval. And I sat there for a day and a half as Harvey and McDonald made big centuries. And I'm up at the board for Nort, and Harvey's 100, McDonald's 100. So that was my introduction to Shield cricket. So it was the end of the season, of course.
So that experience of McDonald, Harvey, these sorts of players who were just massive names of Victorian cricket, was that intimidating for you at that time, or did they make you feel welcome?
They all made me feel. They made me feel welcome at Northcote. They made me feel welcome. I think the big help for me at Victoria was the King of Collingwood, because the King didn't say much. He used to walk around, and he was selected for 100 years, Jack Ryder. But he was much like me in nature. I think he was quiet, wasn't flamboyant. Played for Collingwood till he was 55. He played in the times of Bradman and all that sort of jazz. But I just sort of felt very comfortable there.
So you had that early sample playing for Victoria, and then there was a bit of a wait before you got into the team and played on a regular basis.
Yeah, the big thing was I was still in the state squad, and I went down the state squad, and it was the best practice you could get. At Northcote, wickets were always indifferent. The state squad, Albert Park, were fantastic wickets. I don't care where they bowled for 18 yards or whatever, and Jack Ryder's behind the net saying, "Get on the front foot, son," and their bowling bounces at you. But I didn't mind all that, but it was just being around the Harveys, and then one day Kyle McDonald come out and told me how to bat.
Yeah. So how would you describe yourself as a cricketer growing up, and sort of as you're making your way, how would you describe yourself if people hadn't seen you play?
Well, my first thing, I think I actually took after my brother. My brother was a blocker. Used to get in, they couldn't get him out. In fact, in the final match when I was a kid, a bloke was crying and bowled him an underarm in the final, Northcote Preston Churches Association, because he was blocking all day. So I think I wasn't brought up in the Bradman type era of playing strokes. So in my house, I'm talking about. But no, I just was very lucky. I would have been happy playing one season for Victoria because I would be home doing more time with my pigeons. Pigeons were my passion. I mean, cricket and baseball I loved.
Yeah.
I lied in bed worrying about pigeons, never worrying about cricket.
Do you think that might have helped, that you had good balance in your life, that the cricket wasn't absolutely everything? And you know what cricket's like. There's so many failures in cricket. There's more failures in cricket than success. That you had that good balance.
Well, I think the good part about it come from when I was on tour.
Yep.
I didn't play golf. As soon as we got the rest day of a Sunday, we didn't play for Sundays back then. I used to, pigeon fanciers would ring me up and I'd ring them and I'd go out and spend my Sunday with a pigeon fancier.
Right, okay.
And when I had a game off, I'd always go and spend my time with a pigeon fancier. So I was getting the best of both worlds. I was touring England or South Africa and playing cricket and visiting pigeon fanciers in my spare time.
That's fascinating. So it was late in the season of 59-60 that you scored your first ever century for Victoria. Now, this was a big day, again against WA. What do you remember of that? Might test your memory a little bit.
No, I can't remember that. The only, I can remember stuff, I think long enough, the only century that really sticks in my mind is the 266 I made against New South Wales to get into the test side, but that was years later.
Yeah, it wasn't that much later.
Oh.
It was only the next summer. So I'll ask you about that, because this was when it all started to happen for you, where it was against New South Wales in Sydney that you scored the big 260 in front of the selectors ahead of an Ashes tour.
That's right.
Did you know at the time that this was coming, that the team was about to be announced, that this was your moment to potentially get on that tour?
Well, all I remember at the 266, I ran with Ronnie Furlong, who got out for 48. We talked about it the other day, Ronnie Furlong and I. And I was 192 or 198, not out overnight. It was New Year's time. And Ronnie Furlong and I didn't drink, so we were sitting out in the street watching the girls pass by in the gutter and Aylett and about 4 of the top AFL footballers were up in Sydney having a great time. They got paid money. They could afford to go to Sydney. And they went past and said, "Oh, well done, matey. You might get 200 tomorrow if you're lucky." And off they went. Brassey was there, was one of them. And because Ronnie Brassey went to the same school as me at Preston Tech. So Brassey and I, we knew each other quite well. And so that was the start of it, because then when I made the 266, somebody said, "Oh, they put up the scoreboard at the MCG that you made 266. So that was the start. But I didn't have thoughts of even going to England then, because it was my first big 100. But when I went to Brisbane to play, which I think got me the tour, the New South Wales selector went to Brisbane as well, and I got 100 up there. Because I was against Ian Craig, because Ian Craig had been captain and everything, and he was the guy I was still vying for that 16th spot. Graham McKenzie would have got the 70.
So when you go to England in 1961, there was a very famous opening combination at the time of McDonald and Simpson. Yeah. So you went essentially as the reserve opener. Yeah. Did you think when you headed over to the UK that you would have played for Australia, or did you think you were just going to be part of it and it was going to be an experience for you?
Well, two ways. First of all, I was just happy to be there. I mean, if I was playing today, it wouldn't have happened, because they played in every county. When we went to England, we played every county, including the Scarborough Festival. So I had about 4 or 5 or 6 innings before the Test match.
We actually had 8 lead-up matches.
8,
yeah.
But you were batting on Sunday, and then you were batting again on Tuesday in another game. That was the thing about it. You were playing and learning the conditions. It was a good summer. It was a good, bright summer too. And we got plenty of opportunity to make runs, and I was made enough runs to make the selectors think that maybe I should be in the side.
Well, I'll help you here. You scored 720 runs at 80 in the 8 lead-up matches, which kind of forced your way into the team, which included 100 at Lords against the MCC. So what was that like playing at Lords for the first time and also getting 100?
Well, it was good. Well, I was also lucky because I played at the Oval for the first time. I got 100 as well. I know my 2 favourite grounds, as it turned out. I just was just so happy to be there, but it was sort of frustrating. My first test wasn't too successful. I thought to make 8 or something, did I?
You got 57.
Oh no, sorry, I was thinking about the first.
Edgbaston.
No, I got 57. Harvey buggered that up. I was I opened with Colin McDonald. He got out early, and Harvey and I put on a partnership. And at lunchtime, I was 59 not out. And I was happy as Lawry. And as we were walking off, Harvey, who was a man of few words, by the way, Neil, he said, "You're going to do what I did." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Make 100 in your first test." And all through lunch, I was thinking about making 100 in my first test. And I walked out, and they brought Illingsworth on. Didn't turn the ball. He was a nice bloke. And I went forward and nicked it or something. Got caught out for first ball after, second ball after lunch. So that was frustrating.
You had too much ice cream for lunch.
No, I was thinking about the 100 in the first test match. It wasn't on my mind before that. So I had to wait till the second test.
And then away it went. The career started. And
well, I was lucky though. It was such a good summer. Every time I batted the wickets, I either made a duck in the county game or 100. The conditions were so were the other players. Simo, I made 2,000 runs, and Simo nearly made 2,000 runs on the tour. So it was a golden summer.
Yeah, and that is, it's extraordinary to think. So it was 2019 runs at 61 with 9 centuries on that tour from a first class point of view, and then 420 runs at 52 in your first 5 test matches, which is a stunning achievement. And you got picked to open the batting with McDonald, with Simpson going down to 6 to get you in the team.
Selectors were Harvey, McDonald and Benno, of course. It was a brave move. And Simo, I don't know whether he'd been in New South Wales, he probably didn't take it well, but he didn't affect his cricket, so he still kept making runs. But no, it was a bit of a challenge, and getting runs in the first test, because then we go to Lords, which was a different pitch than the first one we played on. So that was the start of probably the good things for me.
And then that 100 at Lords in the test match, which was called the Battle of the Ridge. Truman was bowling to you. It was quite a remarkable test match. And I think that's where you started to get that reputation of getting hard runs. When it was tough, that was when you came to the fore.
Yeah, well, Neil Harvey said it was my best 100. It was my best 100. It was the best 100 in the circumstances, but Cole McDonald got out early. Neil Harvey made 40, and then I think Normie got out. And the guy I liked batting with most was Peter Burge. I think Peter Burge was the best batsman I played with. The ridiculous things to say, because he just got out too easy, but he had no fear. When you go out to bat and you take strike, I don't care who you are, and you look back there and this West Hall or something, you're taking strike and saying, "I'm only getting paid $100 for this test match, so I should be home with my pigeons." Burgee would walk out in what situation, and he took guard with the full face of the bat, the only player I've ever seen do it in first-class cricket. And he'd take guard and he'd say, "Centre, please." And he'd look around the field, and he'd turn around at the bowl and he'd say, "Ready?" And get down his guard. And he just a brilliant player. Should have made a lot more runs than what he did, but he was great to bat with. You felt safe.
Yeah, okay. So what would have others thought of you then? Because with the way you batted, occupying the crease, taking all the hard overs, was that something that you wore as a sort of a badge of honour?
No, I wasn't as good as Simo. I was getting away from strike. It's nothing to do with badges of honour. No, I was lucky to have a golden summer and be in good form. You go into test matches making runs, and I'm probably the proudest thing I've done. I don't think about cricket that much, was making 100 in the Lord's Test we won, and making 100 in the Manchester Test which we won. 2 which we won. We go to the Oval on the best pitch of the 5th Test match, and I'll make a duck on the best pitch of it. And that was Benno's fault for leaving me out of the Scarborough Festival. I hadn't batted for 3 weeks, but I wasn't going to tell him at Channel 9.
Fantastic. So as you sort of went along and were playing Test cricket, you kept making lots of runs and batting long periods of time, which I've referenced. What was the secret? Because there's not a lot of people that could do what you did, batting long periods of time and not losing concentration?
Well, I think because I loved it. I love fielding. In fact, I love fielding more than batting. Strange enough, because I used to love throwing it. I played baseball, had a good arm. When I say I love fielding, you're not under the pressure on batting, but to run around watching these great players bat and bowl to them, it doesn't matter where I feel. I really enjoy and love the crowds. When you're batting, you shut them out a bit. You just it's a bowler and you. But when you field, I got out of the slips and because I had a good arm and I didn't have to listen to them talking the rubbish they talk in the wicket and the slips. So, it was good.
And because you at one point there, you talked before about the Phantom, but you also got called the corpse with pads because of the amount of time you batted. Now, did you take that personally, or did you think...
No, that was interesting, it was, because that was in Bobby Simpson's tour, and we were leading 1-0. Peter Bird's made a magnificent 103rd test, won the test on his own, 157. We go to the over winning 1-0, and we lost a few early wickets. So my thing was, I'll be here all day, and I mucked it up. I got out about 5 to 6 for 97. I could have batted all the next day as well. It was a nice headline, but it didn't bother me at all because I knew I did the job I was there to do.
Yeah,
didn't worry me at all.
Yeah, and did you have? You talked about Peter Burge that he getting himself out too easily at times. Was it your competitive spirit, or was it your what? I'm trying to work out why it was that you could, because you were doing things that no one else could do by batting that amount of time and that level of concentration.
Well, I think I knew I had to do that to hold my place. And that's what I was there to do. I thought my job was to go in to see off the new ball and go on and make a big 100 as quickly as I could.
Yep. But
my first object was always to try and be there at lunchtime. Because if your two openers are there at lunchtime, you're going to make a lot of runs.
Yeah.
If you're two out, you walk in the dressing room, it's like a coffin. They're all dead. Nobody's talking. The ones that are in next to in the toilet throwing up or something. Doing something.
So we talked a bit about playing in England. What was it like? Before we talk about Australia, what was it like playing in the subcontinent where you had success? Yeah. South Africa was incredibly difficult because they were so good at the time when you were at the peak of your powers, and then the West Indies playing without sight screens and having to face the likes of Wes Hall. Those experiences.
Well, every tour was a bonus for me. I just loved the playing, and I loved being with Australian players. That I never found a bloke I didn't like, Some I wouldn't want to go out with, but I didn't, they were all good guys. So, it was just a nice place to be.
And then playing at home, say at the MCG, walking out to bat for Australia at the MCG, a place that you love so much, playing in front of the Victorians. Describe that feeling.
My biggest thrill at the MCG was when I walked up and saw Bill Ponsford stand, because I met Bill. He was one of the nation's gentlemen when he went to England. We went back for that 200th Test match thing or whatever it was. And hadn't it been a Bradman, Bill Ponsford would have been the star of that era, a magnificent cricketer, and was sort of pushed back a bit because of the status of Bradman. But some of the stories that Bill Ponsford told me about Bradman and him were just unbelievable, which I won't repeat here, but they were interesting.
Was he a hero for what he did on the field? Like someone that you would really look up to?
Ponsford?
Yeah.
He was a magnificent human being.
And then to play at the MCG, because I know you love of Victoria, love of playing for Victoria, but to represent your country, walking out to bat in front of those crowds at the MCG, that feeling.
Yeah, well, it was, and I had a fair bit of success in Melbourne too, which I loved. The thing I loved about the MCG was like when, even in Shield games, when Ian Metcalfe was at his peak and bowling from the southern stand, they gave him a new ball, and the Wharfies were on strike, and it was packed. He'd hold the ball up to them and they'd roar. It was like a football grand final. And I'd hate to be the opposition batsman in there as Ian run in, but no, the MCG was just because you brought up there, you go and watch as a kid. I went and watched Victoria as a kid. I remember my first Test match that I went when Hutton was playing for England. I haven't told you the story already, have I?
No.
I went and we went by train, my mum, my dad, me and my sister. We went, and my brother would have been home doing his pigeons, so we went. We were in the second row up the southern stand, and all I wanted all day was one of those wafers, ice creams. So we're there, and anyway, the wafer boat's coming along early, and he's coming along, and we're two back from the front row, and I said, wafer, wafer. Mum and Dad, we never had any money, so I was probably taking the pocket money off my dad. I got the wafer, and I just bent down to the wafer, and there was this tremendous roar. And it was Windwell bowling the first ball to Lynn Hutton. And Hutton snicked it straight to Colin McCool, out for a duck. And when I looked up, Windwell standing at the bowler's end like this, Hutton's walking off, and I couldn't even see the ball. And finally, McCool took the ball out of his pocket and threw it back to Windwell. And that was a magic moment for me. I never forgot it.
And then, so was it hard to comprehend that you've talked about that moment, that it was you? You were the star of the show out in the middle of the MCG, and people were coming out to watch you play.
I don't think they necessarily come on to see me play. I think they come on to see me to give them a start so they can see the others play.
Not only playing for Victoria, you were able to be captain of Victoria. How special was that from a leadership point of view to be asked to captain Victoria?
Well, it was tremendous. I love Victoria. I loved everything about Victoria. It was tremendous. So we had some good sides and we had some average sides, but players like Jack Potter, who never played a test match, he's probably in New Zealand now. I hope he's still alive. But it was just, playing with guys like Ian McAfee and Lindsay Collins, really top guys. And, of course, watching the Harveys, McDonald play at the same time as you was fantastic.
And then you got to captain Australia. Yeah. There's not too many people in the world, certainly not too many people in Australia that have got to captain their country.
Yeah, and I had probably the least flair of any of them. My game, my problem was, if I had a problem, was an 11 o'clock to 6 o'clock cricketer. There was no before or after for me. That was it. So socially, I probably wasn't a good cricketer.
How would you describe yourself as a captain?
Well, I was determined. I did my best. The captain is only good as the players he's got around him.
Yeah,
you can be the best captain in the world in a weak side and not win much, but you can be an ordinary captain with a great side and you can win everything. But I was very lucky we had a very good Victorian side. I was very lucky we had a pretty good Australian side. So I've got no complaints.
Who would be the best player you've played with?
For Victoria and
yeah,
Australia?
Well, we'll start with Victoria. Who was the best Victorian you played with? Tough question.
That's a tough question. I'm trying to remember anybody I played with. Well, I'll probably have to say Neil Harvey, I think, technically, because he was a great player when I first went inside anyway. I think he was, I think he was just such a natural athlete, fieldsman as well. But no, I was very lucky. You play with folks like Colin McDonald, and I'm trying to think. I can't remember half of them I played with now, to be honest.
What about from an Australian point of view? You mentioned Peter Burge before, but you got to play with a lot of very special cricketers.
Well, I was lucky for a start. When we went by boat in 1961, I was the 16th man picked and Graham McKenzie was the 17th man because he'd only taken 5 first-class wickets. And we were roommates together. So that was a wonderful trip on the boat. I'd never been away from home before. Graham was quiet, I was quiet. We weren't social, really. Graham used to disappear. I think he was more social than me because he was built like Tarzan. But he was very quiet anyway. But it was just wonderful being on the ship. And Arthur James is a physio. He had more influence on me than any other person. I think probably in my cricketing life, from one point of view, that Arthur was a little bit like me. After the day's played, like a cup of tea or something like that. We're going to have a cup of tea. And he went to England as the physio from Tasmania. Can I talk about Arthur James for a moment?
Yeah.
Arthur James was a football rubber down at Hobart. Used to rub the footballers. And he said it was tough times in the 30s and that. And they thought they were getting rubbed with oil, and it was a bit of oil with water in it. They used to scrap it around the legs and say, you're a champ, run out to the footballers. Anyway, when Victoria played a match against the Tasmania 11, Ponsford got hit on the hand. Greatest opening batsman Australia's ever had. And Arthur James was a rubber. He wasn't actually a registered physio, he was a rubber for the football. So he got to Ponsford and worked on his hand and got it going. In those days, of course, there was no physios for the teams or anything like that anyway. Anyway, when Bill Ponsford got back to Melbourne, he went to the secretary of the Melbourne Cricket Club and said, look, there's a guy down in Tasmania who should be going to the Australian side as the physio. I said, oh, yeah, okay. So word got around anyway. They approached Arthur James and said, we're prepared to take you away as physio on the boat, but you'll have to pay your own fares.
Right.
So for the 1930 tours and 1934 tours, Arthur James paid his own tours. So Arthur James became part of the side and very much part of the situation. So we can thank Ponsford. And Arthur James went from every tour, 1930 till my last tour, 1968, every Australian tour to England as a physio.
Wow. That's
He
amazing.
had a big influence on young players like myself.
Yeah, he would have had plenty of stories to tell with the people that he...
Yeah, no stories to tell. That's why he was so successful.
Very good. Very good. We talked about some of the names and that the opening partnership you had, or the combination you had with Simpson. So while it didn't start that way because you ended up, when you opened the batting, Simpson went down the order, but then you ended up joining to have an amazing partnership.
Well, I think in that tour, Colin McDonald only played 3 test matches, I think, and Simo came in for the 4th.
Yeah.
I think. And Simo thought I was fantastic because I took all the strike and he could get away from the strike. He was very good at taking the quick signal, but he was a wonderful player. I mean, he was a brilliant slip fieldsman and could bowl a bit. And he was good because he would respond to your call as well. He was a good runner between the wickets and a very good player.
What was the secret to your success? Because you scored 3,600 runs together, 100-run partnerships 9 times. There was the famous 382-run partnership between the two of you. Was there something special that made it work?
Well, we weren't social. I never went out with Bobby for a meal ever, I don't think. And he didn't go with me, so same thing. No, I think the key was we're good runners between the wickets. We were good players at pace, and we were just at our peak at the right time.
And I wanted to ask you about the not so much the relationship with Don Bradman, but probably the lack of relationship with Sir Donald Bradman. Because when you were captain of Australia, he was chairman of selectors. He was this enormous figure in the world of cricket. But he didn't really have much of a relationship with the Australian captain or any of the Australian players, really.
Well, I think that was a good thing from one respect. But I remember when I had I think it was when I come back from England, he walked into the dressing room and he looked down at my feet. He said, "You got big feet, Bill," and out he walked. That was the end of the conversation.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. You got to give him full credit. I don't know why he took on the job of chairman selectors for all that time.
Right, okay. So if we could then go and reflect back on your career, it's an extraordinary career when you look back on it. 5,234 test runs, 18,000 first-class runs, 50 first-class hundreds, 13 test hundreds. You captained Australia 25 times. It's a good resume, Bill.
Wasn't until the 26th.
Yeah, that's right. There was no 26th.
That was the one where I got dropped with 1 test to go.
Does that hurt you still when you look back on it? Because it was controversial when you found out on the radio.
It's only hurt from the point of view that it probably cost us drawing the series. Because one of the saddest things to come out, I don't know whether I should put this on tape, it was one of the saddest things. Kenny Eastwood was a brilliant player. Should have played Test cricket before then, even if it wasn't, they should have took him away. And after he come back from Test, he made 0 and 5. And I tell you, Kenny Eastwood and I got on very well because we're much the same type. We're quiet, not very social. He loved his little bit each way in the races. I like going to see pigeons. And he come up to me, and it was the saddest moment of my cricket career. And I don't know whether I should put this on tape. But he said to me, "If you'd have played in Sydney, we might have won that test match." And that really hurt me.
Yeah.
It really was sad.
How do you want to be remembered firstly as a Victorian cricketer? For those that want to go back and look at the figures, look at the history of the game, how would you like to be remembered?
I don't really care, to be honest. That's probably a silly thing to say because I know I did my best, and people can make what choice they like. But all I know is that, like most of the Victorians, we all give 100%. That's all you can do.
And just the thought when you, even just chatting today around your kitchen table, that the fact that you played 67 times for your country and you played all those matches, 249 first-class matches, does it make you proud?
No, well, yes, of course it does, but it made me happy because I was doing something I liked, and it gave me well, we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for cricket. That opened up a new world to us, and I was lucky I married Joy Barnes, who was prepared to put up with pigeons and away from cricket at the same time. But no, I just think it's a great game, and I was very happy to be part of it.
Do you still love the game?
Not interested in the game so much now. The reason for that's simple is I played from the time I was 12 till I was 34 or something. And I had 40 years at Channel 9 watching the cricket. So there comes to a stage in life where you've got to just walk away from it. And it was good to walk away because I had something I wanted all my life anyway, it's to roast pigeons.
Yeah. So I want to ask you one more question about your cricket because I can't not ask you about the district cricket final when you played Essendon because it is a famous moment where you batted all that time. It didn't look like it was possible that North could win when Essendon made 9 for 514 declared. And then you decided to make 282 not out and batted for forever. And you got them 5 wickets down.
Well, there's two things that motivated me there. Well, there was about 5 things. But one of the things was that I'd been at playing cricket. I'd never been in a winning premiership side from the Force up to Northcote all that time. And I'd also had a big year. In fact, I've got to give Bradman a bit of credit here because I'd made 3 Test hundreds against England in a very tough series. It wasn't a great series to watch. The wickets weren't good. There wasn't much between the side. He came in after the Test match and said, "Well done, you've had a good year." I said, "My year's," and I did say this, "My year's just starting, Sir Donald. Next week at the Albert Ground," and it was just another Test match for me.
282 not out. Was that your best innings? I know you played obviously for your country and
well,
did all these, but it was quite special for you.
Probably it's okay after you played 67 Test matches you can say this, but it was probably the one I got the most satisfaction out of because I'd been at Northcote all my life since I was 12. I never played in the finals at any level, and we got to the Albert Ground, and I was in the probably at the peak of my form. Really, it was just probably the peak. I didn't think about it then, but I've often thought about it since that I should have been capable of making 100 in that final.
Yeah.
If I'd made 100, I would have been happy probably.
Yeah.
But when they made 512 and the wicket was so good, and I knew that I only had 2 bowlers, didn't know. I thought if I could get over Kirby and Grant, I can make a big score here.
And you certainly did. And just finally, there's another whole generation of cricket fans that know you as the commentator Bill Lawry and not the cricketer Bill Lawry. Yeah. And how satisfying was that time in your life to be able to continue involved in cricket, but to be known by so many people that almost sitting in the living room with you every day watching the cricket?
Well, there's 2 things about it. Is that first of all, when I played, I watched every ball. And even when I was out for a duck, I wouldn't sulk and go into the toilet and kick the toilet seat off or something. I loved watching the game. I was there from 11 to 6. I watched every ball of the game. Whether I was batting, fielding, or watching. So I just, what was the question again?
About the commentary. So many people remember you as a commentator.
The first thing was that when Packer decided to take it, which is the best thing that ever happened for world cricket, was first of all, I remember when we signed up, because Benno had signed up, he was the bloke that made Channel 9, there's no doubt about that, Richie probably would have struggled. But Stacky and I, when we sat down and they told us how much we're getting paid for the year, Stacky and I couldn't grab the pen quick enough. It was just, for what we've been paid for playing for Australian cricket, it was a lot of money. Still not a fortune, but a lot of money. But for me, it was great because I loved watching every ball of the game as well. Once I did my stint, I'd still watch all the game. And the others would go whatever they love the blokes do. But I just loved being at the best ground, watching the best cricketers for 40 years. So I can't really knock it.
And it sounded like you enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, I loved it. And I loved also being with guys like Benno and Chappell. Well, some of us were complete opposites, actually. The 3 of us, I'm completely opposite of those 2. But then the Bothans come in the box and you're watching Chappell and Botham do the commentary, looking in opposite directions. They were just wonderful moments. And David Hill, the producer, who knew nothing about cricket, he thought he knew everything. And it was just a magnificent success. He'd try things that people never ever seen before.
Did you think you'd be good at it when you first were asked to do it?
Well, I knew I'd be all right because I did a little bit, when I say all right, I didn't think I'd be doing it for 40 years, but Doug Ring and I used to do a bit for Channel 7, district games. I stand on the stand and do a bit for Channel 7, so I had a little bit of introduction to it, but not like Benno, who went for England for 12 months to learn the arts of presentation for the BBC, which thank God I didn't go there. I wouldn't have lasted one day.
Just finally, I just want to say thank you. It's been great to sit down and talk to you about your cricket. You've had a very, very special career. I know that Victorian cricket will be forever indebted for what you're able to do for the sport, and it's just very special that you could sit down and talk about some of your great memories.
Well, I'm very indebted to Victorian cricket because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. So, and where we're living today, it wouldn't be there for them. So, cricket's been very good for us, and I loved it. My brother loved it playing for Thornbury Presbyterians, and it's a great game. I'm not so keen on the giggle game. The fact that the Shield cricket is disappearing, but Test cricket will still be special.
Fantastic, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.